Bringing you Monday Motivation, Life by Design sets you on a path to discover your purpose. Share in the life journey of our guests from around Africa who live their lives by purpose.
Hello and welcome to Life by Design, a show that inspires purpose by talking to people who are already living their life purpose. So today we have in studio Solomon Izang Ashoms. He'll be taking us through his life journey, where it all began, so that we can be inspired as well to live our lives by design. So I would say that ours is really about that Monday motivation hashtag, so that you can get your life together and live your life on purpose and live your life by design. Solomon, thank you for joining us and welcome to Life by Design.
Thanks, Amanda. Good to be here.
So, as I said, you're living your life on purpose, by design. But we want to know, where did it all begin? I know that you were born in Nigeria.
That's right.
Can you tell us about where you were born and your upbringing? How was it like?
I was born in a city called Jos. It's a small city in northern Nigeria. So I'm from a very, the upper part of Nigeria, basically. Quite a lot of tribes and languages there. You know, the state that I come from is called Plateau State. It's part of the highest point in Nigeria. So when Nigerians come to my city, when Nigerians come to visit or to stay, they find the place very cold because Nigeria is normally not cold. You know, we are hot and humid, but because we're on a plateau, we're right on top, so it gets really cold. You know, Nigerians find it very cold. They complain a lot about it, but we're used to it. I grew up there. In a home of 5 boys and 1 girl. Both my parents were teachers, so you grow up in a home where both your parents are teachers, so education is very important.
Oh yes, yes indeed.
And also just making sure that your discipline, you know, is also important. And obviously, you know, I grew up in a Christian home, so there's church also to do with it, and there are other activities around the community to do with it. I'm from a tribe called Izere. So my people, they call them Afi Izere, but the language that we speak is called Izere. So it's a very small tribe. We occupy a local government called Just East Local Government, and that's where we're from. Went to school there. You know, growing up was interesting there because, you know, you grow up, you play on the street, you interact with others, and it's like very African family. Families come to stay with you, cousins and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the village and you stay there sometimes, and so you get that kind of experience.
So being raised by teachers, did you find yourself aspiring to be a teacher as well?
I think I'm the only one that didn't aspire to be a teacher because all my brothers, you know, I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. I'm the second in the family, and my first brother now is a teacher. You know, he teaches in the College of Agriculture, and then that's me. And then the second one is a teacher, but he teaches the Bible. You know, he has a master's degree in divinity. But then after him, there's a medical doctor, and then there's a pharmacist. But one thing was, all of them, even whilst they were in secondary school, high school, when they come back for holiday, they teach. So, you know, they teach to make money. They do tutorials for kids. They go to their homes. And after high school, before they went to university, they also taught. You know, they got a job for a year and taught. But I was the one that never really actually did it.
Okay.
You know,
what did you want to do when people asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was your response to that?
I don't know. I think I'm very different from my family. You know, that's why, I mean, looking at the name of this program, you know, Life by Design in itself, you know, your parents design a certain life for you, but then society now influences you, or peer pressure influences you, and you begin to take another route. You know, I'm the kind of person that wanted to explore and play around, not the conventional way, you know, that things are done. You know, all my brothers are like prim and proper and all that, but growing up for me, it was different. I was like, wow, that's something. But I wanted to just get involved in, I love communications. You know, I love to know things, just to get information, you know. And growing up, I wanted to be that. My dad wanted me to be a doctor, obviously, but I wasn't concentrating enough to be good in sciences. But I wanted to. I saw that I collect informations a lot. You know, I love to know things. I love to tell people about things. So I thought maybe political science. You know, so even after high school, I studied political science for about 2 years before I left, and I discovered communication is better, media is better for me. Even before then, I had studied a diploma in, I was really trying to find my purpose. I got to a place where it was just difficult to find my purpose, so I tried this, and then I tried that, and then I tried. So I had like 2 years of just jumping around, still trying to find my purpose, until I found it, and then all my passion was just unleashed.
And so you realized that you were a communicator. Was there anyone in Nigeria that you looked up to, as far as that sphere is concerned?
Yeah, growing up, there was actually quite a lot of people that I definitely look up to. Back in the day, there's a lady called May Ellen Ezekiel. She's late now. Her husband actually is one of the legendary actors in Nigeria. It's called Richard Mofe Damijo. For the people who have watched the movie, is it The Wedding Day, the one that was shot in Sun City in South Africa? He's a very legendary actor. So his wife ran a magazine called Classic. She's dead now. She's been dead for quite a while. She died from fibroid. So I love to read it. One thing I forgot to tell you, Amanda, is growing up, when I was even like 6, 7, my dad comes back from work, and I run to the car and I go pick the newspapers. He comes with newspapers. I take the newspapers and read it. I normally read the back page, which is a sports page, obviously. Yeah. But at that age, I knew that I love to get information and communicate it. So May Ellen Ezekiel is somebody around the continent that I really you aspire to be like. And there's a guy also called Victor Oladokun. He was with CBN in the US, but he's Nigerian American born. And then there are quite a couple of people within the BBC segment, radio, and radio was something for me that I loved. You listen to it over and over again. And just the way people communicate, the way they use words, the way they inspire people, the way they convince, the way they paint pictures, it became very interesting for me to follow.
Then you complete your schooling in Nigeria and decide that you're going to study your further education where?
In Cape Town. So
why Cape Town in particular?
In Cape Town, because I was looking for a particular place that I could study communication and at the same time get some sort of a biblical perspective to it. So you get the skill, but then you think biblically, as a Christian. So I got this international university called University of the Nations. The main campus is in Kona in Hawaii. So I came there, studied, communication, did a bit of journalism, design, video, radio, digital communication and all that kind of stuff, and it was true. It was then that I actually first got involved with radio. And
while
then,
you were studying,
whilst I was studying, I remember my first experience. I was doing some sort of internship with Radio CCFM in Muizenberg in Cape Town, and I because I love sports, it was easy for me to do like a sports program. So I was helping with the sports program, and one of the days the station manager called me to her office, and I thought I was in trouble, obviously, and she was like, no, there's this opportunity for an African to go over to Manchester in the UK to cover the Commonwealth Games. The 17th Commonwealth Games, where all English-speaking countries across the world come together. It happens once every 4 years, and I was shocked. And
that was a golden opportunity.
It's a golden opportunity. You get thrown into the deep end.
Yeah,
you're not. Time. Yeah, now you have to go into territories that you're not used to, and then it's also internationally. It was my first time, traveling out of Africa, but it was more like you throw you into the deep end. You have to swim. And it was a huge learning curve for me. I would never forget those moments. You go out there, you see international people, you see, global media there, and then you have to interview, world-class athletes, different languages. You see people from everywhere, very multicultural, for about 3 weeks. This whole city is turned upside down. You go to venues, you try to follow press conferences, and you look, it just became very interesting. And I actually saw that, wow, there's actually a lot of journalism in me, because I love to go out and hustle. I love to like go look for it. You know, there's a treasure out there.
Yeah, a golden opportunity, daunting as it was, but of course it expanded, you know, what was in you in terms of journalism. So would you say that the foundation you got there then was able to be used to get to where you wanted to go?
Yes, definitely. You know, it was just it was a huge turning point for me, you know, and also being African, I love Africa, you know, and obviously I went out there and trying to cover especially news from African perspective, you know, and it was it was there that the love for journalism, or the love for really writing and investigating and just going out and getting, you know, resources to put a program together now came in, and it was a knowledge and experience that, you know, that actually gave me a direction where my life is going, and it helped to design my life in a certain way, and I still love it until this day, you know, because that's like 15 years ago or so, but I still love it.
And what was that design? That's what I call a switch. When did that happen? Like, what is it that you were able to pinpoint and say, because of this, I know that this is what I am born to do?
You know, we normally, when we go to like these big sporting events, like I've been to the Olympics, a couple of Olympic Games, 3 Olympic Games, All Athletics Championships, Soccer World Cup and all that. And we go as a team. I'm always the only guy from Africa, and then you got guys reporting in Spanish, or you get guys from in French and all that. And normally when you go out, you go look for news. So in early days, you go out, and there's just something about me that positions, I know how to position myself to get exclusive, like a scoop, you know. And when I get back,
you're very good with that, by the way.
You see, you know, you can even see it until this day. And when we get back, you know, our project manager will be like, wow, this is like really exclusive. So we get even the BBC getting the scoop that because they don't have it, you know. And that was when I was like, wow, you know, there's actually something in here. There's, you know, there's something in me that's design that is in me, you know, in my life, that I could actually get access to certain things, or I know how to position myself, or to probe and investigate and be able to get that. And it became not just part of my journalism life, but it also became part of my everyday life, you know, in a lot of what I do.
Now, coming to South Africa, what plan did you have in mind? What did you want to achieve when you get here?
You know, I first came, I studied in Cape Town, and then part of my studying, I have to go up to and study in a different continent. So I went to Scotland and studied. I stayed in London, worked a bit, but I was never the one to stay in Europe. You know, I have a lot of friends who were staying there, married and all that, but I really wanted to stay in Africa, because I feel my life is designed for the African continent. I'm African, you know. I wanted to go back home to Nigeria, but I felt being in media, there's so much that I needed to learn, and South Africa is better. But going back to Cape Town was not the option, so I thought maybe Johannesburg. So I actually came to Johannesburg at the airport. I think I had 200 rand in my pocket.
Wow, you brave, eh?
People don't know that, you know.
And you had someone that was going to host you, yeah?
I had a place, a community of like people that I was supposed to stay with, you know, like a mission base that I was supposed to stay with. And I came in and it was a struggle, you know. It was a struggle. Sometimes I go a week without seeing 20 rand, don't have toothpaste, you know, but it was never an issue for me, because I know my purpose. I know what I'm up to.
Request to find something.
I know what drives me inside, and what drives me inside is so much more exciting than not having this or not having that, you know. So I was focused, I was passionate, you know, totally passionate about it. You know, and that was how, you know, Johannesburg being a very huge center of media, you know, started getting involved around with radio, and also getting involved with a magazine. I started a magazine, a lifestyle magazine later.
Talking about radio, which radio station were you working for? What was the first job that you did? Not necessarily the radio station, but what is it that you were doing, your first job in Johannesburg?
In Johannesburg, my first job was I think it was the afternoon drive.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the afternoon drive, and also quite a bit of, going down and to the games venue and getting interviews also.
Okay.
So I did that quite a lot. And also I did a bit of training. I love training also, so we did training. There was a time I ran a training for 3 months, 12 weeks. Students from across Africa in radio, from Ghana, from Lesotho, they all came and we stayed together in a place and trained, and also did a bit of like weekend training and all that. So it was part of what I really loved, and so I did that, and also did a bit of acted as a reporter for a couple of radio stations also, and also freelanced for a couple of international radio stations that I'd built relationships with. So I freelanced for them. They call me up, we need this, can you get it for me, and all that kind of stuff. So it helped to really with the relationship, build a huge network.
Yeah. So when did the idea of the magazine come, and how did it come about? It is Parable magazine, right?
Yes, Parable magazine.
How did that come about?
It came up in London. I remember in the morning, and I was having a conversation just about the importance of stories. And parable is a story. And being somebody who's Christian, there's so many parables in the Bible. When you ask Jesus a question, he gives you a parable. He tells you a story. Then we learn from people's stories. We
do, definitely.
So I just felt, wow, stories are very important. No matter what your story is, do not ever think that your story is not great. Your story is great. Your story might not be the same as the other person.
Yes.
It might be different. That's the uniqueness of it.
And you can use your story to inspire others.
Definitely. No matter how your story, no matter how you started, no matter what you've been through, there's always something to learn. And so I just decided to call it Parable, which is more like a story. And we just started profiling stories, and I started it, I remember I used to catch the train around Joburg. I used to take the taxis and trying to go up, and I didn't have no money. I just had a vision.
Yeah.
Didn't have
And
no
passion.
money on passion. Didn't have money to print. Didn't have money to design it, to pay the graphic designer. I didn't have any of it, but I now got somebody who said, no, I will help you design it, and then you can pay me later. And I managed to follow up with a few people that I know to say, look, would you advertise? So they take on a page and they pay me, so I use their money to print. So it started as a small, A3, A3 size, and then it moved to A4 size, and it was good to just see the way it grew later and around the country, and also in Botswana, Lesotho, and also people making reference to it, when they talk about some of life lessons that they've learned.
Yeah. And so what are some of the biggest stories that you've profiled there, one or two of them that you can think of? I
would say, there's a couple of stories that we did there are a couple of stories that we did around just social stories, just looking at how socially relevant are you in society. So we profile different people in society that are making a difference from a social perspective, because sometimes we get consumed by just doing our own thing without really giving back in society. So we get people who are making a difference in like the HIV/AIDS or poverty, or some people trying to provide finances, scholarship for kids to go to school. I feel those are some of the amazing jobs. And then there is I've forgotten her name. She does the afternoon program on SABC2. Mbuli, Bonnie, yes,
Okay.
yes. We had her on the cover page, and she's been through.
I remember that copy.
That edition,
Yeah,
yes.
that edition. I had one, and her story inspired me a lot.
Definitely.
She was dealing with depression.
Exactly, exactly, and that was you remember that?
I remember that. I had that copy.
That's over 5 years ago.
It was one of the most beautiful stories, in the sense that it was so real, so authentic. There was nothing that was covered
Yeah.
so that we see her in the light that she's been portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
So she was brave enough to go in, and I believe that when she did that, she was able then to reach out to so many people who are struggling with depression as well, but perhaps there's shame around it.
That's right. Obviously later on she got to write a book around it.
Yes,
and that's important.
Books.
How would my life, the purpose of my life, influence other people? How would the purpose of my life help somebody else to tell their story?
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. We have to be able to make sure we design our lives. Sometimes we can design our lives, but things happen. You're gonna face challenges. You're gonna fail. You're gonna get up again. You're gonna fail. You're gonna get up again. But you're persevering. You're pushing. You're saying that your mistake is not the end of it, because you have the passion, and that look, the purpose in your life is to do this, and you're staying with it, no matter how long it's gonna take you. It's gonna take a long time. You're gonna pay a price. You're gonna go through quite a lot. You're gonna get disappointed, but that's not the end of it.
Talking about paying a price, you're a man who wears many caps, but I believe there's one that's bigger than the others.
Lately,
and that's the one lately,
yes.
And that's the one you're paying the price for.
Yes.
And you are an activist. What kind of an activist are you?
I run a platform called the Movement Against Abuse in Churches. So I'm an activist. I just wanted to make it easy for people, but actually I'm an apologist. That's the way I see myself. I'm a Christian apologist. I believe in my faith is very important, just like a lot of Africans, no matter what your faith is. My faith is very important, and looking at the Christian faith in South Africa and around the African continent, I felt there's a lot of things that's going wrong within the Christian faith, not because the Bible is wrong, but because some people take it and use it and bring and bring shame to the faith in itself, and we've seen a lot of abuse. It's sad, because I was telling somebody 2 days ago that it's sad because the church is on primetime news, on the front pages of newspapers, for the wrong reasons, not for the right reasons. We've seen a lot of people, how a lot of Christian leaders, bishops, pastors, giving people things to eat, spraying them with stuff, creating fake miracles. We've seen women being abused and girls being raped and boys being raped by leaders in the name of the Christian faith. But that's not the Christian faith. And why do you
think that is so prevalent in Africa? Because you don't hear much about it elsewhere, but in our continent. Is there something about Africans and their faith and their ability to believe that makes them, to be susceptible to this kind of abuse?
I think the first thing is, one thing is Africans love their religion. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, or whatever, you love it passionately, and that's the most important part of your life. And secondly, Africans, because of our culture, we respect, we have a fear for authority, be it in church
Very
or
much
outside
so.
of church. Whatever an authority figure says, that's final. So we don't go and question it.
Authority.
Yeah. So we need to get to a place where we question it. If a leader says this in church, if he says the Bible says this, is that really the Bible, or this is his own interpretation of the Bible? So we have to be careful. And questioning it doesn't mean I'm disrespecting you. No, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just telling you you're human, I'm human. You may make a mistake, and I have a responsibility to check it and all that.
And I have to use my own judgment at the end of the day.
Yes. Whether we agree or not agree is fine. I don't look for people that would agree with you. I tell people that I'm not looking for people that would agree. Actually, if you disagree with me, I love it, because you're going to introduce me to a different perspective.
Oh, yes.
Whether I accept it or not, I will respect it, and I'm going to be able to put myself in your shoes and say, oh, okay, from where you're sitting, I see what you're saying, and I understand it. And I don't normally see it that way. I see it that way, even though my perspective differs, but I see you. But the church, we don't see a lot of that. So we see people being taken advantage of. We see people being abused. We see people saying, look, this is what the church did to me, or this is what pastors do. But actually, this is not what pastors do or a church did to you. This is just an individual who chose to do that. So my activism is just to be able to first bring awareness, help people to bring awareness and say, look, you have to look out for this. This is a reality within the church. And secondly, how do you help some of the victims who've been abused in the church, be it from a financial perspective, from a sexual perspective? How do you help them? This morning I got an SMS. I woke up I got a WhatsApp message from mother of a child who was abused by his pastor. This is a boy that was abused by a pastor who is also a man. You know, he was raped several times. You know, the boy is, and she was reminding me that on the 5th of next month, April, we're going to be going back to court again. Because the investigation have been done and all that, and because the person who did that needs to face the justice system.
Yeah. How does your human side deal with such horrific stories? Because I'm sure you can't help but feel for these people. How do you manage to go through your day having heard such stories?
I think for me, why I do what I do, actually, the first point is because there's a compassionate side of me. And people don't get it. People think, Solomon is this, hard-hitting guy and all that. That's
why I had to say your human side, because they think you're not human.
Yes. But people that know me really closely, I'm a very compassionate person. There's a side of me that get neutralized when I see injustice. And for me, it's about injustice. How do you bring justice? It's about truth. So when I see that, the first motivation is this thing was done in an unjust way and it needs to be corrected. So my mind stays on that, and every day you need to think about that. You connect with the people, the victims, from a human perspective, emotional perspective, but at the same time, you know that there's only much you can do for them. You can only make sure they get justice. Do we go to open a case with the police? How do we go to court? Another girl last night, she was calling me. She lives down in the West Rand, and she wanted me to meet another church leader on Sunday, who is a leader at her father's church, and her father had raped her for 7 years. For 7 years. She when she realized that, she took him to court, and then they said she didn't have enough evidence, and then the father now went and got an interdict to shut her down, that she would never share that story, because she used to go to school. She silenced her. She used to go to school to educate kids, so she shares her story. But no, you cannot do that. So you can see, but now we're trying to see, okay, how do we rectify that? How do we at least give her the privilege for her to be able to do what she loves in going around and educating people around with it? So you connect and say, what do we do? How do we bring correction? How do we bring justice? And that is very important. And sometimes I get very emotional about it, and I think when I get emotional about it, sometimes it brings a lot of anger. I have anger, not anger in a wrong way, but anger for injustice, and that's actually basically some of the processes that I go through.
Yeah. So here you are in pursuit of purpose, living your life by design, but obviously it's not something that is appreciated by everybody. You're receiving a lot of backlash, you're receiving a lot of hate, and somehow your family is in danger at times. How do you navigate this?
Yeah, it's, when I've been married for 6 years now, and when I got married, I told my wife straight up that I'm going to put you in a lot of trouble. I didn't know all these things was going to happen, but I just told her upfront, because I felt the purpose of my life would make people not want you, would make people not like certain things that you do, and it's fine, and then it got to a place where I told her, look, the purpose of my life may get me killed and may even get you killed. So are you ready for that?
That's heavy.
That's heavy. We had to sit down, and it's a reality check. It's a honest discussion. And I mean, you sit down with your wife, you have 2 young kids, and then you have that kind of discussion. Yeah. But I'm glad that she understood it. She never told me, Solomon, stop, don't go further. I mean, we've had people come into our house 3 times to kill us.